in the latter half of the 24th century, where the absurd had become the norm, and the impossible merely a minor inconvenience, Dr. Elara Mistry, one of the few brave or foolhardy souls who dared to be called an anthrochronologist, stood aboard the Temporal Vector Engine, TVE, a spacecraft that looked like a cross between an ancient rocket and a silver needle, designed to sew through the fabric of time. Elara, a woman whose humor was as sharp as her intellect, had always found the past more intriguing than the present. She often joked that she'd been born in the wrong century, but now, thanks to the TVE, she could choose her century. The past is a delicate tapestry, Elara. We don't entirely understand how this theory will work or what the consequences of visiting our own history might be. So please tread lightly. Her mentor, Professor Roshan Gupta, had warned her and had tried to talk her out of this venture many times, but Elara's heart was determined. Gupta, one of the geniuses behind the TVE, had a head of hair as wild as a madman's, but his theories were sound, and Elara knew she should probably listen to his advice and let some other candidate volunteer for this mission, but she just couldn't. The TVE didn't just travel through time. It sliced through the cosmos at speeds unfathomable, outrunning light itself. Humanity could travel the cosmos and arrive at their destinations thousands of years relative to when they left Earth. Strange to think that the galaxy has been populated with dozens of human civilizations for centuries, yet the light and signals from the closest of these colonies still wouldn't reach Earth for another few decades. The reason humanity could travel through time to other worlds was simple. We could easily travel through time in a vector that was perpendicular to our own, but to travel a path that was parallel was impossible. At least it was before today. There was still much about time travel that was still unknown. Early attempts at time travel had been disastrous. Ships crashed into their past or future selves as temporal dives forced their ships to occupy the same space in the past as they pushed through time, creating terrifying temporal collisions. It was only with the advent of faster-than-light propulsion that time travel became a reality fraught with its own set of mind-bending problems. The most critical of these, aside from the restriction on parallel travel, was temporal buoyancy, a term Gupta coined to describe the TVE's ability, or lack thereof, to displace mass as it cut through time. Imagine the boundary between time and space as that like the surface of the ocean, and the TVE as a naval ship, Gupta had once said. Elara thought that a poor analogy. Besides, if the TVE was unable to displace the mass it encountered on its journey, it wouldn't so much as sink as it would simply evaporate. The reasons for which seem to involve hypothetical virtual antimatter particles which are spontaneously created to balance out the displacement formulae. But as the phenomenon is impossible to observe, the fundamental mechanisms responsible remain unclear. Regardless, the only safe way for the TVE to initiate its temporal dive was in the vast emptiness of space, moving along a carefully calculated vector to ensure nothing lay in its path, no planets, no asteroids, no cosmic debris. Which is why Elara had spent the past week trekking towards interstellar space. Alarms sound in the cockpit alerting Elara that she had finally cleared the heliosphere and could begin her journey. She fastened her restraints, heart pounding in her chest. The cockpit of the TVE was her window to the universe, and today it would be her gateway to humanity's past. She initiated the temporal dive sequence, the engines humming with a power that felt almost alive. As the TVE leaped forward, reality warped around her. Time travel, Gupta had said, was like parsing through a mirror. Indeed, as the TVE pierced the temporal barrier, Elara felt as though she were diving into a liquid reflection of reality itself, even if it did happen far faster than was possible to perceive. She knew that if the TVE were slower, she might see ghostly images of her past self hurtling backwards to the starting point of her journey, a surreal mirror image racing in reverse behind her. But traveling faster than light, she was spared this haunting spectacle. Space and time bent and twisted around the TVE. The stars stretched into long streaks of light. Some faded to red and disappeared while others grew bright. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the journey ended. The stars returned to their pinpricks of light, and the vast emptiness of space greeted her. Elara checked her coordinates. Her initial jump was complete, but she still had a long journey ahead before she would arrive at her destination. She was technically in a time far before the birth of the technology that made her journey possible, but she was now quadrillions of kilometers away from Earth. The light from her current location would technically reach Earth until some time after she had left, in what was now the future. How does one refer to her past when it technically wasn't the past? Not for the first time, Melara marveled at how strange and woefully inadequate language was at being able to communicate the nuances of situations time travel created. While what had just happened was weird and difficult to explain, the next stage of her journey would be even weirder. Melara would have to make carefully calculated lateral jumps through time and space that would spiral in closer to her destination. Until recently, it was believed to be impossible to return towards Earth at a point in time that was different than when you left. Melara hoped to prove otherwise,